Electric vehicles are taking the world by storm. If you haven't been living under a rock, you'll know that these eco-friendly vehicles are all the rage right now. People are scrambling to find the best electric car for them to buy. In fact, there's a whole side of YouTube dedicated to EVs and how they could change the world. But are electric cars really worth all the hype? Today, most of the vehicles on Earth are powered by internal combustion engines, which use gasoline. These engines produce literal tons of carbon dioxide when driven and can cause great damage to the environment. This is why many companies such as Lexus, Mercedes-Benz, and Audi are rushing to move their car lineups to be all electric. These companies are spending millions of dollars developing these vehicles that might not even be useful in the first place. Electric cars might not be the solution to the world's problems. First off, electric cars have to be charged with electricity, obviously, but the not so obvious problem is that most countries in the world get their electricity by burning fossil fuels, such as coal. A Forbes study has found that up to 84% of the world's energy is still generated using fossil fuels. The world's just not in a position right now that allows for EVs to be a solution to all the energy problems. Electric cars just support society's ongoing addiction to fossil fuels by using the energy produced from them. The worst part of electric cars, however, comes from the production process. Electric cars have to have large battery packs to be able to provide driving range that can compete with a gasoline-powered car. It's what most people look for in an EV after all. But these battery packs are comprised of various special materials that you can't find in your mom's minivan. These materials include lithium, cobalt, nickel, graphite, and more. They're more commonly known as rare earth elements. The mining of rare earth elements is dangerous for the environment and for people as well. One common way of mining for these is to remove the topsoil of a certain area and create a chemical-filled pond where you can separate the metals from the earth. But this method often lets these toxic chemicals leak into local waterways and aquifers, which can hurt wildlife and the people who use those waterways. The second option that mining companies have is to drill holes deep underground and pump these toxic chemicals inside the earth, which has the same consequences. Both of these mining methods produce tons upon tons of toxic waste, which has no real place to be disposed of. According to Harvard International Review, for every ton of rare earth element produced, the mining process yields 13 kilograms of dust, 9,600 to 12,000 cubic meters of waste gas, 75 cubic meters of waste water, and 1 ton of radioactive residue. Moreover, there have even been claims of child labor in mining facilities for lithium and cobalt in Africa. That's not a good look. Okay, now let's talk about the experience of owning an electric vehicle. There are tons of pros and cons that many people have with EVs. First of all, driving in one is very different from a gasoline car. There's no engine, so the drive will be overall quieter. Second, it costs less to pay for electricity than gas. You can save a lot of money in doing so. It's one of the most common reasons why people choose to go electric. Oh, and one more thing. Some electric cars have great 0 to 60 times. Although these pros may sound useful, maybe useful enough for you to switch from gasoline, don't be fooled. The cons far outweigh the pros. First, let's talk about the big one. Range. There's a term about electric cars which is called range anxiety. It's the feeling of not knowing when you'll run out of charge. EVs usually display the expected range on their screens, but most of the time, this isn't accurate and can put you in a tight spot if you run out. Along with that, there aren't a lot of electric vehicles that have an efficient battery. The range of most EVs is subpar at best when compared to gas vehicles. Although there are some EVs with higher ranges, those cars come with astronomical prices. On the topic of prices, most electric cars are too expensive when compared to gas cars. The average electric car is $10,000 more expensive than a comparable gasoline car. Another disadvantage of electric cars is the charging system. Electric car chargers are less common than gas stations and can be really hard to find sometimes. However, most cars try to help as they display the location of the nearest charger. Teslas are fairly good in this concern as they display all the information about the nearest charger. However, some other charger systems don't even show the status of the charger. It could be out of order for all you know. All of these disadvantages of EVs make it harder to do the daily tasks that you and your family are used to, and they make it harder to argue in favor of electric vehicles. Again, not a good look. As you can see, electric cars might not be the way to go in the future. Electric cars aren't really as clean as you may think, but with the way the situation's going right now, there's no doubt that electric cars will slowly begin to replace gasoline cars. With all of these issues though, it's essential that we find a replacement for electric cars as well. Well, what could we possibly use then? Trains, planes, flying cars? There's a lot of possible solutions that we could use. We just need to look in the right places. In parts of Asia, people use a technology called maglev, which stands for magnetic levitation. Maglev has been around for a few decades now, but in the West, we haven't seen extensive use and demand for them as we have for electric vehicles. This technology is used in trains, and people living in Eastern Asia use it almost daily. The way maglev works is that the track is lined with electromagnets, which periodically change their electric charge. The underside and sides of the train cars are also lined with electromagnets that change their charge. This alternating charge current propels the train at incredible speeds, up to 280 miles per hour. The only reason why this is possible is because the magnetic levitation makes the train literally levitate off the ground. The levitation completely eliminates friction with the tracks, which would have slowed down the train. Also, with the maglev train, you won't hear the loud noises of a gasoline train. All you'll hear is... It sounds pretty cool if you ask me. Theoretically, it could be possible to use maglev technology for personal vehicles such as cars. You could turn the roads into tracks and add magnets to the cars. There are some downsides, however. Maglev trains are heavy, with a single car weighing up to 30 tons. To levitate this massive amount of weight, you need a massive amount of electrical energy, and as we've learned before, most of this electricity is generated with fossil fuels. So, what is an actually effective solution that we could use instead of EVs and maglev? Well, there's a solution for that that's in the works right now called Hyperloop. Hyperloop is essentially the same as maglev, but it's faster and all of it's going to be inside a tunnel. It'll be powered by electricity, obviously, but what makes this different from maglev? First of all, Hyperloop won't run on tracks like a regular train. It'll be run inside a low-pressure tunnel, which will allow it to operate in any weather condition. Inside the tunnel, there are electromagnetic motors placed at regular intervals to propel the train forward. These motors use the same tech as maglev to use electricity to move the train, but the difference is that there are solar panels on top of the tunnel that supply the electricity for the motors. Obtaining energy from a sustainable source such as the sun, combined with the sheer speed of Hyperloop, could be just what the world needs. If everything works out, Hyperloop could replace electric vehicles altogether. Hyperloop could even replace plane travel. It's projected to reach speeds of about 760 miles per hour. At these speeds, there would be no need to travel on a plane anymore, as long as the infrastructure for Hyperloop is there. That's completely mind-blowing. It's almost 3 times the speed of the conventional maglev train, and it's 200 miles per hour more than the standard passenger plane. Hyperloop is projected to be put into place in California in 2030. Also, Hyperloop would only start to be useful if it was put into place across the United States. Just California would only count for a fraction of the people in the United States. It sounds like a really promising concept for sure, but there's still a long way to go until the Hyperloop can be actually useful. By then, a lot could change about the current state of transportation, but if it's done properly, Hyperloop could definitely kill electric vehicles and become the dominant form of transportation in our society.